How are you feeling today? Have you ever wondered, why do some women, even when they have love, a peaceful home, a stable job, and all the things others dream of, still sigh quietly and still feel empty, as if something inside them is missing, something they cannot quite name? The man beside them often thinks, maybe I'm not good enough, so he tries harder, works more, pampers more, tolerates more, but the more he tries, the farther she drifts. And one day, in a house that once felt warm, he realizes nothing he does is enough to make her truly happy. If I told you that this isn't his fault, not entirely her fault either, but the result of an invisible psychological program that has been running inside her since childhood, a program that makes a woman, no matter her circumstances, carry within her a kind of dissatisfaction she can barely name, would you believe it? I've seen it. In the women who have passed through my life, in friends and random conversations, and even in those who seem to have everything, they all share one thing in common. Their happiness is fragile, as if the smallest thing could shatter it completely. They are not truly sad because of men, not truly hurt because of life. They hurt because of something deeper, a void that has never been filled, an emotional crack formed long ago, long before they even realized they were learning how to become a woman. I remember a man once said, I did everything for her, bought flowers, cleaned the house, took her traveling, said sweet things, but somehow, the more I did, the sadder she became. He didn't know he was trying to fill a bottomless pit, because there are emptinesses that cannot be healed through actions, but only through awareness. When the inside hasn't healed, everything on the outside is just a temporary patch, and sooner or later, it falls off. Sometimes the woman herself can't understand her own feelings. She doesn't know why she feels tired, why she feels cold in the very arms holding her. She only knows that no matter what he says or does, there is still a nameless space inside. A sense of living wrong, of waiting for something even she cannot define. And from there begins a familiar cycle, the cycle of expectation, disappointment, and then distance. A quiet loop where both grow weary, yet neither knows what they're fighting against. Perhaps, to understand why she always feels not enough, we need to look deeper into that mechanism, the spiral that makes every action, no matter how well-intentioned, so easily become a mistake in the eyes of the person we love. A mechanism no one sees, yet one that can destroy even the most beautiful love. There are men who have asked me, their voices full of confusion. I do everything, and nothing pleases her. If I work a lot, she says I'm distant. If I stay home more, she says I'm lazy. If I buy gifts, she says I'm compensating. If I don't, she says I'm careless. It's like no matter which direction I choose, the result is still wrong. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Perhaps anyone who has ever loved a woman in the modern world has felt this, a nameless dissatisfaction. Not because of any specific issue, but because of a vague sense that everything isn't enough. In truth, most men in that situation are neither stupid nor insensitive. On the contrary, they are very perceptive. They observe, they listen, and they try to fix every tiny detail so the woman beside them can be happy. But the more they fix, the more she feels something is missing. Because what she is reacting to doesn't lie in his actions, but in the emotional structure within her. It's like he's trying to patch a boat, but the water is leaking from underneath, from holes even she can't see. At first, that woman might be very happy. She laughs often. She's gentle and grateful for every gesture. But then, one day, when everything starts to become stable, a quiet emptiness inside her awakens again. She doesn't know why. She only knows she begins to nitpick, begins to notice flaws in the very things that used to make her happy. Words that once made her smile now irritate her. actions once called thoughtful now feel fake. And the man, he starts to feel like he is living in a game with no rules, where every move leads to losing. The truth is, no one wants to live with that psychology. The woman doesn't want to become difficult either. It's just that inside her, there is a part that never truly feels at peace, a part that is familiar with the feeling of lack. And when everything becomes too quiet, she feels afraid that peace will break, afraid there will be nothing to hold on to, afraid she will have to confront the emptiness inside. And so she finds a reason to be unsettled, a wrong word, a misplaced glance, a tiny detail. Anything is enough to trigger the familiar mechanism, finding faults to feel alive. If you look closely, you'll notice arguments in love rarely start from big issues. They begin with small details, a slight feeling of dissatisfaction, then spread like ink diffusing in water. Because deep down, she's not reacting to the present, but to some invisible memory that once made her feel abandoned, belittled, and not important enough. And so, the loop continues. The more he tries to prove he loves her, the more she doubts. The more he tries to explain, the more distant she feels. Not because she wants it this way, but because her brain is programmed to look for evidence of an old fear. If once, long ago, she felt not loved enough, then even if today he loves with all his heart, she will still find some missing piece. To rationalize that familiar emotion, that is when love starts to grow tired. The man withdraws. And she, even though she doesn't want to, becomes even more dissatisfied because he is no longer the man she once knew. And then the two of them drift toward opposite ends of silence. No one is wrong. It's just that between them, a program is running, an old system written in childhood when she was just a little girl, learning how to love but never taught how to feel enough. And it is there that the true origin of female unhappiness begins. An emotional structure inherited and replicated across generations, where dissatisfaction is no longer an emotion, but has become an identity. Once you understand this, you begin to see, behind every complaint, every cold gaze, every unreasonable criticism, is a little girl from long ago, still trying to prove she deserves to be loved. There is something very few people notice. Sadness sometimes doesn't begin with an event, but with a silent inheritance passed down through this bloodline. Some women, since childhood, have lived in an emotional atmosphere, heavy. No one taught them to be sad, but they grew up among sighs, small arguments, and weary eyes. They learned to look at life with a gaze that is always cautious, always searching for what might go wrong. Science says that about 50% of human personality and emotion is inherited, which means some people are born carrying a different emotional blueprint, a brain structure that makes them easily suspicious, easily anxious, and easily feeling lacking, not because they choose to be that way, but because their genes make them more sensitive to pain than others. Imagine this. A child born into a family where the grandmother is always sorrowful, the mother always complaining, and at the dinner table, every story hides an invisible fatigue. How will that child grow up? Perhaps she will learn that life is always something to endure, that loving is exhausting, and happiness, if it exists, never lasts long. I have seen families like that. 3 generations of women, different faces, but sharing the same gaze, the gaze of those who always see something wrong. The grandmother, long ago in wartime, was never allowed to cry, so her unhappiness turned into silence. The mother, growing up in that silence, learned to complain because that was the only way she could hear herself. Then the daughter, she's no longer threatened by war or poverty, but carries an emotional hunger inside, a hunger that cannot be filled with material things, but only by being understood from within. And so, even living in beautiful homes, even with a stable life, she still feels lacking. Lacking what? No one knows. Maybe lacking the sense of safety her mother never had. Maybe lacking the feeling of being loved her grandmother never received. Maybe lacking the very peace that 3 generations of women in her family have never touched. But the saddest part is, she does not know that this dissatisfaction doesn't truly belong to her. She's carrying the echoes of old wounds, wrapped and passed down through each cell. Like an old song replaying, only the singer is different, but the melody stays the same. There is something wrong with this life. So when the man beside her asks, "What are you sad about?" she doesn't know how to answer, because that sadness has no clear beginning. It doesn't come from a single action, but from an entire system of collective memories. We often think memory exists only in the mind, but in truth, it also exists in the body. An emotion suppressed for too long can become hereditary and be passed down as a signal to the next generation that one must stay alert, stay worried, and keep a distance to survive. That is why some women become afraid of losing the moment they are loved, begin to doubt the moment they are happy, and feel unsettled the moment they are at peace. If you have ever loved someone like that, you will see she doesn't want to doubt you. She is simply fighting memories that are not hers, memories inherited as a warning that happiness is unsafe. And when you understand that, your view begins to change. Some battles in love are not between 2 people, but between 1 person and the past of 3 generations. From here, the question is no longer, why is she sad? But whose sadness did it begin with? No one is born knowing how to love. We learn it by observing. Through the way a mother looks at a father, through the tone of a father's voice when he speaks to the mother, through the way the 2 of them stay silent or get angry or walk away. And then, as we grow up, we unconsciously copy that entire script. Even though we once swore to ourselves, when I grow up, I will never be like them. I have met so many women who carry the same pattern. On the outside, they are strong, successful, kind, but inside, there is a little child who has never heard the words, "You did well." A child who was abandoned by her father, not because he was cruel, but because he was too busy, too tired, or too cold. A child who saw her mother cry silently after dinner and the next day smile as if nothing had happened. That child grows up and believes that love is a place where she must always try to be chosen. She learns to please, learns to anticipate others' emotions, learns to hide her own feelings to keep the peace, and every time someone goes silent, she feels as if the whole world is pulling away from her. There are 2 childhood patterns that repeat, quietly yet persistently. One is the wound with the father. Maybe he was absent or present, but not truly there. To the little girl, that becomes her first lesson about men. They will always disappoint me, and so, when she grows up, she longs for love, yet does not trust it. She loves, but always keeps a distance, opens her heart, yet prepares an escape route. The second pattern comes from the mother. If her mother was someone who complained often, always saw what was wrong in a man, always believed she had to endure, then the little girl absorbs all of that as the definition of femininity. She learns that being a woman means being tired, means sacrificing, means enduring unfair things while still smiling. And so, even though she hates it, she repeats it exactly. Like an old song stuck on repeat, playing the same chorus. I am not happy, but I have to continue. There was once a woman who told me, I spend my whole life trying not to be like my mother, but the harder I try, the more I see I am living her exact life. That sentence felt like a quiet knife, because that is the tragedy of many people. They don't want to repeat the past, but the subconscious chooses what is familiar over what is right. Because in the inner world, familiar means safe, no matter how much it hurts. So that woman may be loving a good man, but she still feels afraid. Afraid he will leave, or afraid he is too good because that doesn't match what she has known about love. Inside her, the voice of the past still whispers, "Don't trust it. Happiness isn't real." And with just one small thing happening, she withdraws, she performs, she finds faults, not because she wants to, but because that is the only way she knows to protect herself. When we understand this, we see that some arguments in love are really conversations between two children of the past, one who is abandoned and one who is trying to prove they deserve love. And the two adults in the present are merely silhouettes repeating the old roles with the old lines and the same ending: loneliness. There will come a moment when that woman realizes all her efforts to change men are truly just attempts to change the shadow of a father she never made peace with. And all her anger at the man beside her is just her unconscious way of saying to her mother, "I understand now, Mom. So happiness really isn't real." And that is the moment she needs to pause, look deeply into herself, and ask, am I really reacting to him? Or am I reacting to the past? When that question is asked, everything begins to change. There is no more right or wrong, only one very human truth. We cannot love fully if we are still healing something old. When we see this, we finally understand why some women, no matter how much they're loved, always feel like there is an invisible distance. Because the love in the present was never the problem. The problem is that the past has not yet let go. There is a very particular kind of emptiness that only appears when someone already has almost everything. The house, the partner, the stable job, the complete dinners, and then one morning, she wakes up, looks around, and suddenly realizes everything is right. Yet she is still wrong. I once knew a woman like that. She was beautiful, intelligent, and successful, and had a husband who loved her deeply. Yet only 6 months after getting married, she said, "I don't understand why I still feel empty, as if I've never been loved." She thought marriage would bring her peace, but that peace didn't come. And so, instead of looking inward, she began to look outward at her need to search for faults in the man beside her. "You're not as romantic as before. You don't make me feel special anymore. You don't understand me." She didn't know that what she was blaming him for was a feeling of missing herself. We are living in a strange era, a generation of women raised on Disney movies, fairy tales, romantic films, and more recently, social media, where everything is polished, love is roses, travel is paradise, and happiness is color-graded imagery. She was taught that a good man will make you happy, and she believed it. But in reality, love is nothing like what we see on the screen. It includes exhaustion, sadness, days of silence, nights where two people sit next to each other without saying a word. And for many women, that very normalcy becomes the reason for disappointment. When dreams fail to meet reality, the gap between them turns into resentment. Not resentment toward the other person, but resentment toward life for not being as beautiful as imagined. I used to think love meant understanding each other without words. I used to think marriage meant having someone who keeps me happy. I used to think if I chose the right person, I would never feel lonely again. But the truth is, no right person can fill a wrong space inside. Then she begins to fall into a familiar loop. If you were more successful, I'd be happier. He works harder, achieves it. She still feels lacking. Maybe if we had a bigger house, I'd feel enough. They move to a bigger home, still empty. Maybe if you paid more attention to me, he tries. she feels overwhelmed because the issue was never about what she received. It lies in one single thing. She handed the responsibility for her happiness to someone else. When we expect love to heal all wounds, we are unintentionally giving someone else a knife, allowing them to touch places that only we can understand. And when they cannot do it, we conclude that they are not good enough. But in truth, no one can heal a wound they did not create. The frightening part is every time she gets what she wants, the feeling of enough lasts only a few days. Then the void returns, bigger, deeper, like a reminder. You still haven't met yourself. In this world, we find it easier to believe in external beauty than inner truth. And women, because they are expected to be perfect, to have everything, have become hostages of expectation as well. The more they achieve, the more they feel lacking. The more they are loved, the more they fear losing. The more freedom they have, the lonelier they feel. In reality, there is nothing wrong with wanting to be happy. The only mistake is believing that someone else must be responsible for her feelings. And when that person cannot fulfill it, she begins to doubt the love, doubt herself, and doubt life. That is when the illusion begins to break. She looks back and sees that she has lived inside a series of images of love, of happiness, of a dream life. But none of those images truly belong to her. And at that very moment, many women start to lose connection with themselves. They no longer know what truly brings them joy, what they genuinely want, or who they are when they stop trying to be enough. Perhaps that is the true source of the exhaustion in modern love. We no longer love with the heart, but love through templates. We no longer feel, but simply act out what the world tells us happiness should look like. And then what happens? When that mask begins to feel heavy and the woman, out of fatigue, starts revealing the parts of herself she once feared to look at. That is the next moment in this journey when the emotional mask falls and we finally see the real person underneath. There is something very strange about human beings. We can live an entire life inside a role, to the point of forgetting where the real self begins. The woman in this story is the same. Since childhood, she had learned that to be loved, she had to be pleasant. She had to listen, had to smile, and had to say things that made others happy. She was praised for being good and understanding and well-behaved. And gradually, she no longer dared to be angry, no longer dared to be sad, no longer dared to say what she truly thought. She knew only one way to survive, to be accepted. When she stepped into love, she continued to wear that mask, a gentle, sweet, grateful face. She said the things others wanted to hear, did the things expected of her, and hid every little wave rising inside her. The man beside her saw a perfect woman, cheerful, lovely, never complaining. He loved that version of her, and she tried to keep it at all costs. But a mask, no matter how beautiful, will start to become heavy over time. Every time she smiled while her heart was tired, a thin layer of pretense would peel off on the inside. Every time she said, "It's okay," when she was actually hurt, a true part of her would shrink back a little more. And then one day, when endurance hit its limit, that mask fell. But the interesting thing is, it didn't fall with a bang, but with silence. She began to speak less. She began to become distant, not out of hatred, but because she was tired of pretending to be okay. The man became confused. "You've changed, you're not who you used to be." But in truth, she hadn't changed at all. She was simply returning to herself. That is when the truth appears. She had never been truly loved. Because the man loved her while she was wearing a mask, and she had never truly loved either. Because throughout that time, she was only performing love, never daring to let it become real enough to hurt. When the mask falls, everything starts to become chaotic. She becomes unpredictable, easily angry, easily sad, and easily hurt. Not because she has become worse, but because all the emotions compressed for so long are finally allowed to live. The man is bewildered. He thinks she changed, but in fact, she's simply removing the performance so she can breathe. This happens more often than you think. Modern women are taught to be strong, beautiful, independent, sweet, intelligent, properly kind. Yet, very few are taught how to be honest with themselves. So many live like professional actresses, always performing the role of someone worthy of love, and then one day, they no longer know who is speaking, themselves or the role. And when the truth is hidden for too long, it doesn't disappear, it simply mutates, turns into anger, into exhaustion, into the feeling of, you don't understand me. Not because the man doesn't understand, but because she has never said what needed to be understood. Real happiness cannot come when we are acting, because love requires real presence, requires even the ugly, contradictory, vulnerable moments in order to create true intimacy. A person cannot be fully loved if they are still hiding their real self. And perhaps only when the mask falls, even if it hurts, even if it breaks, do we have the chance to see the real person underneath and begin again, not as a pleasant version, but as a human being who can breathe, feel, and be sincere. Because only when she stops performing can love truly begin to live. There is a very strange paradox of this era. Never before have women had as much freedom, opportunity, and voice as they do now, yet never before have they felt this lonely. In the past, women were confined within rigid boundaries. Now they are encouraged to step out, to claim, to prove, and to excel. The word equality gradually turned into surpass. And somewhere along the journey of reclaiming their value, many have unintentionally lost connection, not with men, but with the soft part inside themselves. They were taught, you are a queen, you deserve everything, that men must work to earn them, that women don't need anyone, they only need themselves. It sounds strong and inspiring, but at a psychological depth, that message plants a dangerous seed. Other people exist to serve your happiness. A woman who steps into love with that belief will always feel disappointed, because real love simply doesn't operate like that. Love is not a one-way stage, where one person sits on a throne and the other must forever kneel. Love is a two-way movement of respect, and no one can be happy while standing forever in a superior position. I once met a woman who called herself a true feminist. She said, I don't need men. I just want them to behave. All men are animals. Then she told me about a string of short relationships where she always began in the position of control and always ended in a feeling of emptiness. She couldn't understand why, because she had held power, she had been respected, she had not been weak. But the truth was, she had never truly touched a deep connection. How can you respect someone you consider beneath you? And how can you love someone you no longer respect? The modern generation of women grew up under the chant of independence, but inside they still crave to be loved, protected, seen, and understood. And when those two things conflict, I want to be strong and I want to be loved, they begin to tear themselves apart. The stronger they become, the lonelier they feel. The more they control, the more they lose connection. The more they are worshipped, the emptier they feel. Love, by nature, is the union of two worlds. But if one side believes, I am the center of the universe, then no matter how loved they are, they will still feel as if they are being served, not connected. Some women, in the effort to avoid being hurt, have built a wall of pride around themselves. That wall keeps them standing strong, but it also prevents them from feeling warmth from the outside. And then, in the silence of night, they are the ones who feel left behind. It is not their fault. After many generations of hurt, women are learning to protect themselves more extremely than necessary. They don't realize that sometimes the way we protect ourselves is exactly what isolates us. She does not truly want to control men. She's simply afraid of being diminished again, afraid of becoming dependent again, afraid of losing herself like her mother, like her grandmother once did. And in that fear, she chooses power over affection, logic over connection, standing alone instead of sitting beside someone. But the irony is, the moment she no longer needs anyone, she also stops allowing anyone to come close. Love then becomes a negotiation of egos, not the meeting of two souls. That is why many modern women can be talented, confident, beautiful, alluring, yet still feel like no one truly sees them. Because a light that is too bright can also frighten others. And when you shine with logic, people can no longer see your heart. So, on the journey of reclaiming their position, what women need most is not power, but balance. The ability to be proud yet gentle, strong yet able to soften. Because in the end, what makes a woman beautiful is not how high she stands, but how deeply she dares to open her heart. And perhaps only when she learns to set the crown down can love bloom again in true equality, where no one serves anyone and both look at each other simply as two human beings. There is a silent kind of pain people rarely talk about, the pain of those who have achieved everything they once wanted, only to one day realize they no longer know where to go next. We are living in an age of greener grass, where everyone looks across the fence and believes that someone else's life is always more beautiful, fuller, and more meaningful. Women today are the same. They look around and see an endless race. Who has the better love, the higher career, the fitter body, and the more perfect happiness? A race no one asks them to join, but everyone gets pulled into it for fear of being left behind. Social media has become a distorted mirror reflecting reality, where brightened photos and arranged smiles make people believe that others are living better than me. A woman sees her old classmate traveling in Europe, sees a co-worker showing off an engagement ring, sees someone buying a house, having a child, or achieving success early, and in one brief second, she feels as if she chose the wrong path. Even if she has a good job and has someone who loves her, there is still a small voice in her head whispering, "My life should have been more than this." That is the cut of comparison, a cut that spills no blood but slowly drains gratitude. Then one day, she turns to the man beside her and begins to doubt, did I choose the wrong person? Not because he did anything wrong, but because the world out there keeps telling her she deserves more love, more money, more emotions, more sparkling things. And while she keeps looking into the distance, she can no longer see what is blooming right in front of her. I have witnessed marriages falling apart not because of betrayal, but because of illusion. The wife couldn't stand the feeling that her life was too ordinary, and the husband was exhausted from trying to become an exception. He worked 60 hours a week so she could have a home, a car, everything safe. But each night she looked at her phone and saw an old friend checking in from Dubai. She didn't know that friend was in debt, that the photo was taken to hide emptiness, but that didn't matter. What mattered was she felt lacking. Then there are other women who choose a career, choose freedom, and choose independence. They travel everywhere, eat well, and live well. But one day, in a brightly lit apartment, she hears her biological clock ticking softly. Not loud, not urgent, just a strange feeling, as if she's missing something she once dismissed. She used to think, I can have it all: work, love, and freedom. but now she understands. Everything has a cost, and sometimes the cost of having everything is losing the ability to feel enough. Some choose family and then feel they have traded away their youth. Some choose a career and realize they miss the smallest moments of love. Some try to do both and find themselves exhausted with no energy left to feel joy and no time left even to hurt. The women of this generation, strong, capable, with a voice, with freedom, but in their eyes there is always a faint, deep fatigue, the exhaustion of having to constantly prove they are happy. The truth is, no one can have everything, because life is always a series of trade-offs. To have peace, you must let go. To gain something, you must lose something. And to be truly happy, you must accept that you cannot walk every path at once. But in a world where everything is measured by more, the word enough becomes the rarest luxury. And then when night falls, when the screen turns off, when no more likes echo, she faces herself in a quiet room and realizes what exhausts her most isn't lack, but the never-ending craving. She already has everything. She just never stopped long enough to see it. There is something very sad in this era of healing. More and more people know exactly where they're hurt, yet fewer and fewer actually recover. We are living in an age of beautiful terminology, where every emotion has a label. Every pain has a name. People talk about childhood trauma, about emotional blocks, about avoidant anxious attachment, about trauma, gaslighting, toxic, and narcissist. The more we understand, the more we believe we are getting closer to freedom. But strangely, many people are getting more stuck than ever. I once knew a woman. She had been in therapy for more than 10 years. She had read all the famous psychology books, knew how to label every reaction, and could analyze herself perfectly. But in real life, she was still sad, still disappointed, still lonely. Not because she didn't understand, but because she stopped at understanding. When we look at ourselves in the mirror, we can see every crack clearly. But if we only look without touching, then that crack remains a crack. For many people, therapy becomes an exquisitely cracked mirror. They see themselves more clearly, but still do not dare to touch what needs healing. Because true healing is not beautiful, not elegant, and not safe. It requires letting go of the things we cling to in order to survive. There are people who don't actually want to stop hurting. They just want to know exactly why they hurt. Because pain sometimes gives them a reason to be noticed, an identity to define themselves, a story to tell, to be pitied, to avoid feeling empty. So they learn to live with their wounds as part of their identity. I am someone who was abandoned. I am someone who was betrayed. I am someone on a healing journey. It sounds strong, sounds self-aware, but behind it is a very subtle attachment. A person living in the past just wrapped in the language of awareness. The more she talks about her wounds, the more she believes she's special for understanding herself. The more she analyzes, the farther she drifts from real emotion. She can talk about love, about childhood, about her parents, but cannot sit still and simply feel the sadness passing through her. One day she told me, "I understand why I'm sad, but strangely, I'm still sad." I just smiled. Because understanding is not the end. Understanding is only the beginning. Like knowing where the door is, but still not having the courage to walk through. Many women today are using the healing journey as a way to avoid taking responsibility for their own happiness. They believe, "I can't love yet because I'm still healing." But they forget healing is not waiting until you're perfect before you dare to live, but daring to live while you are still imperfect. In truth, The hardest part of healing is not understanding the wound, but stopping the identification with it. Suffering does not make us special. Self-awareness does not make us superior. Only when we learn to step out of the old story do we truly begin to see the light. Because the purpose of understanding yourself is not to analyze more, but to stop needing to analyze at all. When we truly touch the essence of understanding, we no longer need to say much because the inside has gone quiet. But most of us haven't reached that point. We are still standing in front of the mirror, staring at the cracks, saying to ourselves, "At least I know why I'm cracked." Forgetting that knowing does not make us whole, only action does. And action sometimes is simply putting the book down, stopping the naming of pain, and allowing ourselves to feel life as it is. Not through concepts, not through theories, just through living. Because in the end, the purpose of healing is not to know more, but to need less knowing and begin to feel, and only then do we realize. The mirror was never truly cracked. It was only reflecting the fragments inside us. There is something very strange. People often travel a very long way searching for happiness, only to finally realize it had never left them in the first place. The woman was the same. After all the time she blamed others, after all the time she searched for the cause in other people, in love, in work, in childhood, she began to realize perhaps no one had truly made her unhappy. It was only the way she responded to life that exhausted her. She used to believe that if she met the right person, everything would change, that love would be the miracle that healed her, that if someone loved her the right way, all wounds would simply disappear. But then, as relationships passed by, and every right person eventually became an ex, she began to understand. No one is strong enough to heal someone who has not faced themselves. The truth is not romantic, but it is liberating. No one can turn an unhappy person into a happy one. No one can love someone who hasn't learned to love themselves. It sounds simple, but for her, it was a painfully awakening moment, like a long dream finally ending. One afternoon, sitting alone in her familiar room, she looked around. Everything was the same. The old table, the picture frame, the chair, and the cup of tea still steaming. Only one thing was different. She no longer waited for someone to arrive and make this life meaningful. She began to understand that meaning does not lie in how much one is loved, but in how present one is in each moment of living. She no longer looked for someone to make her happy, because happiness is not a gift, but a state of awareness. It comes when we stop chasing, stop blaming, and begin taking responsibility for our own emotions. From that point on, she changed. Not loudly, not with declarations, just a change as gentle as breath. She began saying no when needed, began staying silent when she didn't want to explain, began smiling not because she was validated, but because she was truly calm inside. And strangely, it was precisely when she stopped trying to do everything to be loved that others began to feel love flowing from her. Because when we stop demanding others to fill us, we naturally become full enough to give. And love, which is inherently a two-way stream, can only live in that space where no one carries anyone, but both walk together in freedom. Her awakening did not come from knowledge, but from acceptance. Acceptance that she is not perfect, others are not either. That every relationship is a mirror, reflecting the parts of herself she has not seen. That not everyone comes to stay, but everyone comes to teach her something about herself. She began to feel grateful for those who had hurt her, because through them, she learned how to touch her own wounds. Grateful for the relationships that ended, because through them, she learned that love is not holding on, but understanding. And grateful even for her loneliest days, because it was in those days that she heard the truest voice from within. Not everyone reaches this moment, because awakening is a long journey, sometimes requiring one to walk through every shade of pain before touching even a little peace. But once she touched it, everything around her suddenly became quiet, not because life no longer had storms, but because inside her, she no longer fought them. She understood that peace is not the absence of problems, but knowing she does not need to control every problem. Happiness is not finding someone who makes her forget the past, but being strong enough to look directly at the past and still smile. And if someone asked her today, ultimately, what made you happy? She would gently reply, it wasn't anyone. It wasn't anything. It was the moment I stopped searching. Because after everything, every journey of a woman leads to one place only, herself. And when she finally returns there, everything else, love, work, joy, becomes just petals blooming around a root that is finally at peace. She no longer needs anyone to save her, because she has saved herself with the light of awareness and the tenderness of her own heart. And that's the content of this episode. If you feel a sense of resonance with these reflections, don't forget to follow the channel and stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. See you soon. Bye.